Want honest, non-influenced reviews over assistive and mainstream technology from a blind person's perspective? Check out the Teachavision reviews on our website.
The opinions expressed on Teachavision are solely those of the guests and hosts and do not represent other companies or third parties. Thank you for listening.
Hello, and welcome to Teachavision, a podcast by Screenless Allies, where everyone has a different vision of learning. And now, here's your host, Jose Briceño.
Hello there! Welcome to Teachavision. Thank you for listening to this episode and spending some time with yours truly and his guests. If you have not shared this podcast with your friends, please do so. Also, please share the website, screenlessallies.com. We also have a Teachavision landing page where you can subscribe according to your podcatcher of choice. Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or even just a custom player. If you have a specialized player, you can also subscribe there. For now, though, let's begin. We're going to continue the interview with Sarai Hernandez, and on this episode, we're going to talk about being a teacher. How did she even get here? Also, we're going to start talking about sports, how she got into sports, and also some sports that she tried that didn't work. All that and more right here on Teachavision by Screenless Allies. Overall, Sarai, as you got older, what really got you to be a teacher? I mean, we already talked about, the young reasons because they're so nice, but what was the thing that went, I'm definitely going to be a teacher?
I think I just enjoy learning. I love learning about different things. And I was so thankful to all of the teachers that worked with me, especially in really difficult subjects, like, in some of the math, chemistry. And I just had really wonderful teachers, amazing teachers. And I just know that they helped me sort of along this journey. And I just want to do the same. I know not everybody has the same goals, and that's okay. But whether that's getting a student to get a job and live on their own and maybe not necessarily go to college, but just be okay, I want to be part of that process. I work with students with different needs, and to see them how they were and to see the tools that you've taught them and the strategies that you've taught them to click and for them to use them, but also for them to be better than how they came to you, whether that's more emotionally stable, whether that's academically further ahead. It's just really an amazing feeling. Like an example with one of my students recently. And she's like, yeah, I remember you taught me. She was like, my brain was going so negative and I knew. And she's like, but then I remembered what you taught me about neutral tones and about being positive, trying to bring myself back to positive by stating facts to what I know to be true instead of kind of spiraling into this negativity. Just to see her be able to do that on her own was amazing. It wasn't possible before. And there's so many situations where I worked with a student a few years ago and had some pretty intense behavior stuff. They would throw things and cry and scream and got to the point where, it would happen so frequently and not just with me, everywhere. And got to the point where, I could probably count on my hand the times that happened, and when we first got them, they were, I don't care about other people's feelings. I don't care about, had no regard for anyone else's. Got them to the point where they would say, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have yelled at you. I shouldn't have done XYZ. And that was an amazing progress. For them to acknowledge that they did something wrong and also work to try to repair it, it's just really cool to see changes in kids and helping them be what they want to be and helping them to be able to manage their emotions and grow up into these awesome little humans. It's awesome, and I love my job.
What's your subject matter you teach?
So I teach special education, and I also am certified in generalist. So I am certified kindergarten through 12th grade special education, which means you can do a variety of things. You can do anything from teaching resource in a resource setting, which is where students go to get some extra help, or maybe they're not quite on grade level and they need to be taught those skills in a different setting because it's a little less overwhelming. I can do that. I can do stuff with, like I said, what I did before, which is working with older kids who are kind of getting ready to graduate and they want to learn how to get jobs. Anything from that to early childhood, And then I also am certified from 4th grade to 8th grade in generalist, which is math, science, social studies, and ELA, English. And so right now I am teaching math and I have a wide range of students. So some of my students are working on place value and like learning how to be able to read and write numbers and different things like that. And then some of my students are learning, algebra. It's a wide range and everything in between. So I do a lot of math right now, and then I also teach a history class and reading and intervention.
So basically you do a bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Okay. Oh, math. Okay. I'm just going to bypass that little detail because math. Have you ever done any kind of grading or anything like that before?
Yeah.
What is that like as a teacher who's totally blind that has these applications that are made by big companies that probably don't think about accessibility?
I'm really fortunate because there's a person at my job that their job is accessibility. And so when I first got my job there, he taught me how to use that application. And so I really haven't needed any help since. He kind of like oriented me to it and taught me how to use it and stuff. And then I know one of my coworkers kind of helped out in that beginning process. But other than that, I haven't really had a ton of struggles. I've been really lucky. There's another application that we use for like our special education stuff, entering data, IEP information, and that one's pretty okay too. As far as like grading, I do 3 things. One is some of my students are Braille readers, so it's pretty easy to grade their stuff. I can read Braille. The other thing is electronic. There's technologies is really amazing. So a lot of times I will do quizzes and stuff, and I have them where it produces like a spreadsheet, like a Google form quiz or something. And and so it gives me the spreadsheet and I can see their grade that way. And then the third way is like if they're a print reader and let's say I can't read it, it has to be like sometimes for math and stuff where it has to be, I have to look and see how they do it. I ask one of my TAs or I get like a reader
teacher's
to help
assistant,
me with that.
By the way, TA is teacher's assistant for those that don't know what it is.
Yeah, or a reader and grade it that way.
If you need help with how to use a feature or troubleshooting the current Braille display line from the company Humanware, check out the Brailliant section on our website where you will find articles that are easy to understand and to the point.
Okay, now I gotta ask you this because I'm actually curious. I want to hear your answer to this. For quizzes, how do you, because let's just be real, okay? And I'm not saying this to be rude or offensive. I promise you when I say this, but I'm sure that you've had blind people that are like,
ooh, I can cheat on these quizzes.
How have you? I've not done that ever in my life. No, never. No. Anyway.
No, I know what you mean. So I do a lot
how do you
of walking.
do that?
I do a lot of walking around and then we make sure that all of their things are put away. Nothing is on their desk other than if it's their iPad, just the iPad. If they're doing it like on Google Forms, if it's like a Braille quiz, nothing is on their desk other than that. Really keep an eye on them. When I had more students and larger groups, and it's a lot of walking around. Sometimes you would make different versions of that quiz, so it's like harder to cheat because you can't look on the person next to you because they all have a different version. Definitely lots of different ways to do that. But I also love technology because I can see with my Apple Classroom, I can lock students' iPads on other apps and keep them only on certain things. And you can see exactly what they're doing. And so there's lots of different ways to be able to do that.
That's pretty cool. I didn't.
Somebody that's like loves looking at the weather. So I'm like, hey, not right now. Like block it. And it's nothing bad, but it's just like we're working on our self-control. It's really tempting, but there's a time and a place, and that's not the time. And
I didn't know that Apple had Apple Classroom too. I knew Google had Google Classroom, but I didn't know Apple had Apple Classroom. You just taught me something new today, Sarai. Now I know. You can lock people out of iPads in different places from just doing Apple Classroom. That is pretty cool. And I've never said that it was hard for blind people to do that. I was just kind of like, I was just curious because, you do work with other blind people. So it's like, oh, cool. I got my Braille display. Cool. I can actually look back at a note and cheat kind of thing.
I'm pretty good about that kind of stuff because I was a kid too, I made my mistakes. So I know tricks.
Okay, Sarai, so you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that you started doing sports. For the listeners, we always give our interviewees questions in advance, and I did not know she played sports, and our producer didn't tell me that. So, producer, I hate you right now. So we're going to improvise a little bit. So Sarai, tell me about your sports. What made you want to go into sports?
When I was little, like I said, I used to love riding around, climbing trees, riding my bike, all these things, right? And then in middle school, I really wanted to play basketball, but I quit since learning basketball, not a very blind-friendly sport. So I couldn't do that. I tried volleyball. That also not a very blind-person sport. I mean, I'm thankful for my coaches because they tried. And then I just tried running track as well. And for track in middle school, I couldn't participate because at that time, I didn't know about guide runners or tethers or anything like that. And my school didn't really know, right? So I think that plays a big role. It's like, I didn't have those experiences in the same way, but I still ran every day with the track team because they let me practice with them. And so I would run, I just never got to compete. And then once I went to the school for the blind, then I learned like, oh, they have adaptive sports. And so I ran track and I was really good at track. I was like really good at the running. I wasn't so good at the jumping, the field events. It was funny. They tried to sign me up for as many running events possible. And limited my field events because they knew that like that was just not my strength, But I was really good at running long distance and I was really also pretty good at sprinting. I actually even tried out for the Paralympics for running.
Oh, wow.
When I was a senior. I got like first place in all of the races and everything, but I ended up hurting my leg. And so my time was just under what would qualify you to be in the Paralympics. I didn't get to do that. And I'm actually quite thankful that that didn't work out for me because as you know, like Paralympians, they have to kind of devote their life to that for a while. They got to train every day. Their world kind of revolves around that sport. And so I'm glad I had those experiences and it was really cool, but I got to go to college and do all of that. So I'm glad that that didn't work out. I did track and then, I used to run like 10Ks and stuff in the community. And eventually I learned about baseball and then I started doing that. And I also recently started playing goalball. And like I said, I want to try blind soccer pretty soon. Looking forward to that. So I just love trying different things and I've always been pretty active. I just love trying different sports.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Teachavision. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to check out previous shows, which are equally informative and fun as this one. Make sure to also check out our website at screenlessallies.com. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/ScreenlessAlliesOfficial. Do you have any suggestions or comments? Why not email us info@screenlessallies.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.